We have two more. Number two.
Hello, Mr. Schiff. My name is Tim, and I'm from Rhode Island. Thank you for all having us. We're really envious over in Rhode Island for you guys being able to have such a brilliant and bright candidate such as Mr. Schiff. On to my question, Mr. Schiff. The Fed Reserve, I haven't heard it talked about much tonight, and it's been a pet peeve of mine for 2 years since Ron Paul put in H.R. 1207. And I always go back to Jefferson and what he spoke about. If we let a central banking system control our money, we will be standing on ground that our forefathers conquered one time as slaves, if we allow these central banks to continue. I'm looking at MN3 funds, and that $23.7 trillion is floating around somewhere where nobody's telling us about. How important is that H.R. 1207 and its competing Bill 604 in the Senate?
Well, I think it's a step in the right direction to at least shine a little light on the things that the Fed is doing. But I think more important than that is we need to, separate. The Federal Reserve has become a highly politicized entity. And that's not why it was created. But that engine of inflation, it monetizes all government spending, and it runs monetary policy for the benefit of incumbents to help them get reelected. So as a result, it constantly keeps interest rates too low and grows the money supply because that's what the politicians want to get reelected. But that's not what the nation needs for long-term growth and stability. We need a Federal Reserve that says no to these politicians. We need a Federal Reserve that has the independence and the integrity as Fed chairman to raise interest rates like Paul Volcker did and make the government deal with the consequences of those high interest rates by cutting back on government spending. See, right now, normally, if the Federal Reserve was doing the right thing, these deficits would be leading to much higher interest rates, which would put a stop to them. But because the Fed is monetizing and maintaining interest rates at zero, there are no immediate consequences to these deficits, so they keep on running them up. But now it's going to be a much bigger problem when the whole system collapses. The Federal Reserve inflated the stock market bubble with the blessing of Congress, because Congress loved it. They inflated the housing bubble with the blessing of Congress, because Congress loved it, because the constituents loved it. Everybody likes getting rich quick. No one wants to work for their money. The idea that you can get rich by owning a house appealed to everybody, right? Just buy a house and you get rich. That was perfect, right? But so they didn't want to rain on the parade. But now the Federal Reserve is continuing to do that. Everybody wants. We need monetary stimulus. Don't raise interest rates until the economy. You can't raise interest rates because we don't want to hurt the housing market, right? But interest rates have to go up. Everybody is focusing on people who are paying the interest rates. But what about the people who are earning interest on their savings? What about them? They're getting nothing. How are people going to save money if they get nothing for saving? And if nobody is saving, the economy can't grow. Because savings is how economies grow. They grow from underconsumption. So we're destroying the goose that lays the golden egg. We can't, it's not just one side. We have to have an interest rate that makes sense for both parties. Because if nobody's going to lend, how can anybody borrow? So somebody has to save before someone can borrow. So what we're doing is destroying the savings, and the only money people are borrowing now is money that the Federal Reserve creates out of thin air. And that you can't run a society on spending printed money, right? You destroy a society that way. And there are a lot of quotes. Was it Jefferson that central banks are more dangerous to individual liberty than standing armies? And he was right, because they knew how countries have been destroyed by inflation, and inflations are created by central banks. Because you don't want the government involved in creating money. That's why the Constitution says that gold and silver shall be money. The only authority given to the federal government was to coin gold and silver. They can't print money. They're only able to take coin gold and make a coin out of it. And it says the states shall make nothing but gold and silver coin, legal tender or payment of debt. The federal government is not given any authority to decide what's legal tender. The only thing it can do is coin gold and silver, and the states can use it as legal tender, and that's it. A lot of wisdom back then. We were drawing from we only had about 3 million Americans, and we had a Congress full of very brilliant people. Now we have 300 million Americans. There isn't one guy in Congress that can hold a candle to any of the founding fathers.
Question, although I'm happy to tell you, if Peter's so inclined, that there's no one coming into this room afterwards. So we wanted to do the literature and corner him or whatever if he'll stay. we can do that because no one's coming into the room. But our last question.
We've got some new flyers, too, for the Schiff for Senate campaign. Just came off the press the
They're all
other
over the
day.
place. They found out. They're rapid.
And you can get lawn signs and bumper stickers, too.
One last question.
I was wondering what you felt was a better investment, gold or silver? And side question, can I be your understudy so I could take Lieberman's seat in 4 years?
Well, hopefully, if I win in this election, that Lieber will be able to take that seat. Hopefully, I can just break through the barriers, and I'd like to see people, non-politicians, business people, from all around the country running for office, because the key is going to be 2012. I don't know how much I'll be able to do, with the Congress that exists now. But in 2012, if we can really get a new president, if we can have a Barack Obama losing a landslide, and I'd like to be a big part of that. And if we can elect other senators and other representatives that are committed to real reform, that aren't politicians, a real citizens' revolution to retake our Congress and the White House, then we can really accomplish a lot. And I think if I win, it's going to scare a lot of incumbents that maybe their seats are in jeopardy, and really energize a lot of other people, because nobody thinks I can get elected. I mean, nobody. I went. No one in Washington thinks I can get elected. They don't think I have stepped on every political third rail that exists. It should be impossible for me to get elected. And so if I can get elected, then there's hope.